Then I found this link, and then I found the exactly paragraph on this website. So this is not very good, okay? The words that you take directly from others will never fit in your own writing. Of course, you can find information or other people's ideas from the internet, but at least you have to paraphrase it, or you have to restructure it, okay? As for Google Translation, I'm not sure if you use Google Translation or not, but if you do, please don't. Please don't. Or if you do, then you have to edit it again, re-edit it. And in the whole event, if you have a look at some parts like this, da 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 and comma, I think this is from Chinese writing, because in English we don't do this. And then if you notice the punctuation, dot, and this is a comma, this is a comma, comma, and comma, comma, and then this is a period. So only in Chinese, not really Chinese. I think Chinese is one of the languages that don't really separate sentences with periods. Okay, we use comma, comma, comma to connect all these sentences, and then in the end we put the comma. So if you do use Google Translation, I'm not saying that you can't do it. You can, but the results might not be very satisfactory. Okay. Okay. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
I can see you really improved a lot throughout these 4 or 5 weeks. Yeah, from the first week until now, you really improved a lot. And me and Peggy really enjoyed reading your assignments. Thank you.
We are really privileged to have Jason to give comments on your writing. Jason received his master's degree in linguistics, or applied linguistics, from Melbourne University of Melbourne. So he has a very attractive Australia-trained British accent. He was actually my student when he was an undergrad student, when he still had an American accent. But lo and behold, now he has changed his accent from American to British in just a couple years. Okay. Yeah. He's now a PhD student in the Institute of Linguistics. So I feel very honored to have one of my exceptional students to coach you in your writing. Thank you, Jason. Okay, Jason has to go, right? Because
I don't have to say that.
You don't have to stay, yeah, because you have to go back to Hainan to teach, right? Thank you, Jason.
Okay, thank you for having me here. Bye.
Okay, after Jason's explanation, if you still have more questions about how to write effectively, please do talk to me. I'm very willing to coach you and to read your assignments carefully with you to give more feedback. All right, some students asked about the case on Florida vote conflict. I think a lot of the questions you had already answered in your own written assignments. So let me give one example. Some people ask me if we have a similar controversial case in Taiwan. Of course we do. And I found out, actually, I won't show you the links. I'm going to put this on the e-course so you can click these links and find out yourself because I want to save some time. But I do want to share with you, I found out the other time that even when we vote in our election, there are several cases of the so-called invalid ballots. In these examples, I'm going to show you what is considered a valid ballot, okay? Although you may see some deviations from the standard, solid seal like that with one print here, it's still considered valid. With a different color ink, it's still valid. With a little smear, it's valid. And again, valid. With several, as long as it's candidate number 1, it's valid. Okay, this is very close to number 4, it's valid. And this is, you know, the wreath like this, it's valid. Okay, and this, not on the space above, but right on the number, that's valid. Okay, here, it's a little off, it's valid. And with several, valid. This is also valid because we can tell this is an mirror image of number 3. So number 3 is the correct selection. This is simply a mirror image of the seal. And half show, that's still valid. Like that, valid. Okay? So, you know, some of you ask, how can we solve the definitional infinite regression problem? We can't. We can't solve that problem. But then, as long as we decided ahead of time what's considered valid, just like the examples I showed you, if we listed all the valid ballots, all the examples, then and exclude all the invalid ballots, again, show those examples. That's what the election committee did. Okay, there's also a YouTube video clip you can see. So they listed everything that's considered valid and everything that's invalid. Of course, in the future, we might encounter more examples. So we have to put those examples in the list. So we have a very long list eventually. All right. So still, one student has kept asking this question. I'm going to ask Cai Yixuan to answer this question because she has a very clear answer to the question, what is from the left to the right? What is from the right to the left? Cai Yixuan, can you tell us what's the distinction between the two? She did a very good job. Tell us.
Take first, for example, you cannot explain that what is a bird, but you should take like robin or sparrows are birds. So that's from the right to the left. You take examples to.
This is from the right to the left, right? Like
yeah,
robin is a bird.
You take examples.
Sparrow is a bird.
To explain the definition.
Okay, thank you. So in other words, if you stick to the definition from the left to the right, you all know what the consequences is because of the definitional infinite regression problem, and people can never agree on the definition. There's always controversy. So we have to face the fact that definition from the left to the right will always cause problem. That's why lawyers have work to do. But when people define things, our strategy is to from the right to the left. In other words, we say, okay, for example, a bird is a typical example, a robin is a typical example of a bird. A penguin is a very atypical example of a bird. In other words, we do have concepts of central examples and peripheral examples. So in other words, we say, okay, what is a sexual relationship? We all know intercourse is a very typical example of sexual relationships. But kissing and touching, that's very peripheral, right? Some people would say, oh, touching, kissing is sexual relationship. Somebody would say, no, it's very peripheral. All right? So that's how we view definitions. We always use the right to left way to categorize things, to consider A is typical, B is not very typical, and C is probably in the gray area. your classmates went with me and Peggy to visit the courthouse. Now we're going to show you briefly our experience in the courthouse, because a couple students asked me if we have another opportunity. I'm going to show you first what we found out from the courthouse. Of course, you don't have to speak English when you go to the courthouse. Actually, if you can understand Taiwanese, that's even beneficial. All right, Peggy, could you share with us briefly your experience at the courthouse? And after Peggy, I'm going to ask Craig. If Edie is here, Edie just walked out. Okay. After Peggy, if Edie is back, he's going to go first, and Craig is going to be the last.
Okay, now I would like to share my feeling after visiting this place. And so, first is, what does the courthouse look like? And I feel it's like a hospital. Why do I say so? Because I went to National Chengdu University Hospital before, and this is the image of the Chengdu hospital. And this is the courthouse. And I find they are quite similar because they all have a big open place and public art. But the differences is like the hospital is always crowded, but not in courthouse. There are few people there. And the second similarity between these two is like when you go to the hospital, you will see the digital number on the wall, and the nurse will call your name and you can get in. And this is also can be found in the courthouse, and you can see like this. And but the differences is like the nurse call your name, call the patient's name, and this is in a courthouse. It is the police job to call the defendant's name, and then they can get into the room to have the case. Okay, and here are some interesting observations. First one is like the judge tends to use yes/no question, and because that day the judge is a young female lady, and I don't think she is good at speaking South Vietnamese, and she usually asks questions like, are you blah blah blah, or do you agree, do you admit, do you permit, something like that. And those defendants, they are local people in Jiayi, and they age about 40 years old to 60 years old, and I guess their native language is South Vietnamese. And so when they try to answer the judge's question, they will extremely retroflex their tongue. Like when the judge asks, 你是王大明吗? 他会说, are you 王大明? Then the defendant will say, 是. But they are, old men who speak South Vietnamese, so it's weird. And the third one is the code switching between Mandarin and South Vietnamese. Since I say the judge is a young female lady, and she is not good at South Vietnamese, but she tried to translate her word into South Vietnamese. But I think the poor translation caused failure conversation. So I think maybe in the future we should have like translator in the courtroom to help the judge or defendants to translate their words so they can convey their message successful. Yeah, that's all.
Okay. And this picture, I don't think you took from the courtroom, right? Of course not. This is from Google, internet, of course, because we were not allowed to take pictures in the courtroom. So I just want to make sure this is not taken without permission. Okay, now, ED is not around. Craig?
environment. Outside is huge and sublime, you can see. Inside is artistic and relaxed. Let's check it out. Okay, the big skylight, the beautiful where are you? There's beautiful installation art. You can see that. Yeah. And spacious and bright room, many wall paintings. Keep going. And when we in the court, we see three cases. The first is offense of causing bodily harm with negligence, and the second is drug abuse, and the third is assistance of establishing a surrogate account. And I want to see the three things. Here for me. Okay, first I want to talk about the defendant. He said he didn't know his account was turned into a yeah. You know what I mean. He knew that after receiving the notice the court sent, but the meat prosecutor kept telling him to admit his crime. That's so bad. If he did so, he could decrease his punishment.
In other words, the prosecutor is trying to talk the defendant into admitting he did something wrong. He said, well, what you did is very similar to other people. You know, they all agree, say, yes, I did it wrong, and so you should do the same. Okay, then the prosecutor spoke Taiwanese to the defendant, and then the Taiwanese defendant finally said, yes, I did something wrong. Yes, I did something wrong.
Yes, you're right. Okay. You see, the judge, like this. When we step into a court, the judge is like this. Very beautiful and young. Okay. But she couldn't handle the situation. When she asked questions to the defendant, she used Chinese. But the defendant just can say Taiwanese. So she said her and said so the whole case didn't have a nice end. Everybody clear? Okay, everybody clear. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, now ED is back. ED can talk about his experience in the courthouse.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm going to share my experience to visit the Jai District Courthouse. When we arrived